Karen Thompson, a faithful wife and courageous woman, supported her unemployed husband for over 20 years. But one day, something happened that caused her to rethink her entire life and take drastic action. At the age of 18, Karen married the cutest guy in school, but she had no strong feelings for him and acted solely on impulse and peer pressure. They dated for 6 months, and then he asked her to marry him, and Karen, at the height of her youth, let herself be carried away by the emotion of the moment and said yes. The young woman did not realize she and her boyfriend were so significantly different at first, but after they married and moved into a nice neighborhood in Detroit, she began to notice the lack of similarities. Jacob spent all of his free time with his friends, and such gatherings included a lot of alcohol and gambling, with Jacob frequently staying up for days partying. And all of the commotion in the house, which happened every week, bothered Karen, who, unlike her husband, was a quiet and focused girl who never went to bed without a book by her bedside and was constantly studying to keep up with her college obligations. After her graduation in business administration, she got a great job in a company where she received a fair salary, thanks to her enormous competence and great willpower. Jacob was working in a furniture construction company at the time and earning less than his wife, but the construction company closed after a few months and Jacob was out of work. The couple already had a daughter named Stella at the time. As a result, the money was grossly insufficient as the family was only surviving on Karen's salary. Jacob spent more and more time with his friends now that he didn't have a job and had more free time. Karen pleaded with her husband to get a part-time job. She suggested he talk to his cousin, who owned a cab cooperative, to see if he could get him a job as a driver. But Jacob didn't think it was a good fit for him and said he was hoping for something bigger and more worthwhile. During this time, he didn't mind being supported by his wife. His wife was tired of crying herself to sleep at night because of the constant lack of money. Karen's friend told her about a part-time job opening in her husband's laundromat, but Jacob made fun of it again, saying that he deserved a job more worthy of his competence. Karen realized she wouldn't get any help from her husband, so she applied for the job herself, securing a second job, now part-time, at the laundry since her salary from the company was insufficient to support the family. The situation remained relatively unchanged over time. Jacob would occasionally get a job, but because he couldn't stay put for long, the money never made it into the family budget. Karen persisted in asking her husband to get a steady job, even though she no longer had any hope of being answered. She complained that she was tired of working 2 jobs, hoping to appeal to his conscience. However, Jacob got used to the fact that Karen herself was doing very well, and always answered her unceremoniously that he did not force her to work and therefore did not want to hear such talk. In the end, the woman realized that she was the family's sole breadwinner and that this would always be the case. Despite this, she never considered divorcing her lazy husband. Karen was constantly thinking about other people's opinions of her and was terrified of what they might say about her, and she didn't want her daughter to live with separated parents as she did. However, as a result, she always appeared dead and tired, and only her pillow witnessed her tears at night. And so, the years passed. Karen turned 42 and her daughter, Stella, got married and left home to live with her husband. Before long, the woman unfortunately realized that her daughter was repeating her fate. Her daughter Stella's husband was also a party animal. He was often impolite to his young wife and did not bother to work or study. Karen's situation was exacerbated because she was now also supporting her daughter's family, as neither Stella nor her husband worked. The mother helped with the rent, bought groceries occasionally, and paid for her daughter's college education. The woman was extremely unhappy because she didn't have time to take care of herself. She no longer found joy in her days, which were monotonous and stressful. She had to help around the house as well as work 2 jobs. She sacrificed everything for the sake of her family, including her happiness, and she left nothing for herself. Even though they were the same age, almost all of Karen's friends appeared much younger than her. They all took care of themselves, going to beauty salons, going for relaxing walks, and spending their mornings exercising, caring for their health, and keeping track of their diets. But then, something happened that completely changed Karen's life. She went to the supermarket in the evening, as she always did, to buy food for her daughter. Karen then joined the queue, waiting to be served. Suddenly, 2 15-year-old girls tried to get in line, cutting in front of Karen. The woman, who had been waiting for more than 30 minutes, became enraged and reprimanded the girls, saying, "You have to be more respectful. Get in line and wait like everyone else," said the struggling woman. However, The teenager simply laughed and responded, "You don't have to be stressed, ma'am. You appear to be a pensioner. You must have more time than the rest of us to stand in line. What are you in such a rush for? To see a soap opera?" Karen was deeply hurt by these words. She went to the mirror when she got home and began to examine herself critically and thoughtfully. She had developed skin diseases, dark circles under her eyes, and gray skin in the past few years. There was no trace of her former beauty left, and a flurry of questions arose in her head. When was the last time she made time for herself? When was the last time she took care of herself? When was the last time she had a good time? Karen kept looking at herself and noticed that the wrinkles were also aging her. The woman always bought cheap cosmetics and never had the desire to do her makeup. She worked from morning to night like a hamster spinning on its toy wheel, putting in a lot of effort but not moving. Karen preferred gray and brown clothing with no bright colors or colors that drew too much attention. She hadn't purchased new clothes or shoes in years, despite the fact that her feet were in constant pain. Karen examined her hands and noticed how rough and shabby they were due to the amount of weight she carried with them. Are these girls right? Has my time in this life come to an end? The woman thought to herself, and tears began to fall from her eyes. That's when she made up her mind. She suddenly decided that she would no longer allow herself to be hurt, that she would no longer be the family's sole provider, that she would not work for 3 people and carry 2 families without a break. She devised a plan in her head and decided to change her life. The woman awoke the next day excited as she hadn't been in years. It felt like the first day of her life, the first day she decided to live for herself. Karen decided to take advantage of her mood and called her daughter. This would be one of the toughest calls of her entire life. "Stella, I love you very much, and I understand that, like me, you got married young and need money for your education and a nice apartment. But you must understand me as well. I can't work for everyone else by myself. I will pay for your college until the end, but I recommend that you get a job to support your other luxuries. Also, I'll tell you something I've only just realized. If your husband does not satisfy you, value you, or take good care of you, you should get a divorce. Don't follow in my footsteps, and please, my child, don't make the same mistake I did. You should value your life and not give it up for someone who does not deserve it. Think about what I told you," Karen said as she hung up the phone, relieved that she had lifted one of her greatest burdens. But there was one more that was missing. The next day, she had big plans. The next thing she did was visit a beauty salon. At first, she stopped in front of the place, embarrassed by the thought of leaving everything behind and returning home. But she remembered what going home would entail and firmly opened the door to the beauty salon. Karen emerged from the salon 5 hours later, a carefree smile on her face. Karen was transformed into a completely different woman by the master's skillful hands. When she looked in the mirror, she didn't even recognize herself. She looked completely different. The woman had a trendy dyed haircut. She now had a lovely manicured nail on her hands. Karen's skin was also cared for by the salon's beautician, who also performed rejuvenating treatments. With her face transformed, Karen was already feeling more confident, and she purchased a lovely dress, 2 pairs of shoes, and a lovely necklace. She didn't even return home wearing the same clothes she wore to the beauty salon. Instead, she threw them away on the way. When Karen got home, her husband was watching TV in the living room, holding a beer in one hand and a portion of greasy food in the other. And when he looked at his wife, he was taken aback, and he was stunned for a few seconds. "What exactly is this? Where did you get that dress, and why did you dye your hair that color? How much did it all cost?" her husband inquired. Karen simply looked at him with a contemptuous expression and asked, "You don't like it?" The husband returned his gaze to the television and said he doesn't understand the reason for the transformation. "What's the point of spending money on trinkets?" the man said dryly, and the doorbell rang before the woman could respond. It was Stella. She was worried after talking to her mother in the morning and came to check on her. But when Stella looked at her mother, she was surprised. "Mom, you look so beautiful that I can't even recognize you. You even appear to be a few years younger." The woman asked her daughter to accompany her to the kitchen, where they conversed. "My dear daughter, I finally realized that I am a woman who must be treated as such. I never pamper myself or buy anything just for myself. Every month, you visit the hairdresser to have your nails and hair done. And today, for the first time in many years, I went to the beauty salon. I haven't felt this good since I gave birth to you. And today, like that day, is a date I will remember for the rest of my life. Not only because I changed my hair and bought things, but because from now on, I will live my life the way I want to live it. I plan to join a gym and improve my health. I'll find an interesting hobby in my spare time, and I'll read all the books I've always wanted but never had the time to read, as well as many other things I've always wanted to do. And you, please, make your own life. Consider what you want. Also, make sure to discuss it with your husband. Now excuse me, I have something very important to tell your father, and then I'm going to bed. Because tomorrow I have an important interview for a new job that will give me moral satisfaction, not just money. Soon after, she kissed her daughter goodbye and went to the living room where her husband was. "Hey, please turn off the TV, we need to talk," said the woman. "If you don't go to work, I won't support you anymore. I will live first and foremost for myself. I've been waiting for you to mature for the past 20 years. I supported you throughout that time, provided you with a comfortable life, and never demanded anything from you other than your partnership, which I also did not have. That's all there is to it. I no longer believe you and your empty promises. I want a divorce and you out of my house by tomorrow morning." Her husband remained deafeningly silent. He realized his wife was serious and he hadn't seen her like this before. He was disoriented and trying to process the information in his head. His wife went to the bathroom, changed into her pajamas, and smiled at herself in the mirror. She was certain that the dark times in her life were now behind her. These thoughts made her heart pound and her eyes sparkle with joy as she realized she now had the rest of her life ahead of her. If you enjoyed Karen's case, please watch the video and read the other story that is currently on the screen. It will probably move you as well. Have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.